Welcome back, Wargamers. Today I'm going to give you just a quick tutorial on how I protect and give some texture to my terrain. So if you're making any terrain that involves plaster or wattle and daub, or most buildings throughout antiquity, you'll notice they have a little bit of texture on it, even concrete. And so for me to simulate that, I use latex caulk, which I use, if you've watched any of my videos, on a lot of my terrain. And this stuff is great because it also makes your terrain incredibly durable. Before I started using latex caulk, I don't know how many times I would drop my terrain and break it or fracture it, things like that. Hasn't happened since I've started covering it with caulk. So today I will give you just a rundown on how I use it to texture my buildings, and also just a quick tutorial on how I paint them. Now, I'm going to attempt to enunciate caulk a little bit better. Some of my wargaming buddies, who are apparently Sigmund Freud, think I'm saying something else, so I'm going to try to do better about that. And if you want to play a drinking game along, every time I say caulk, you may take a shot and be obliterated by the end. So here we go. We're going to take some caulk and we're going to just run it along the building using your finger, and that'll create nice little creases and divots, which will look nice once you paint it and highlight it. And you might be looking at it close up and think that it's a little excessive, the amount of texture on there. But from 3 feet away on the wargaming table, it looks nice to have some deep recesses and higher highlights. So just cover it all with the caulk. There's just a thin layer and you should be fine. You'll want to wear gloves. Caulk has some nasty stuff in it, and in a well-ventilated area as well. So just keep those health concerns in mind. Alright, so now I'm going to show you just how I paint these. So I spray painted it black, and then I went over with a base layer of, I believe it is just neutral gray. Alright, so that will be kind of the base, the background deep shadow color for my terrain. And I'm just going to start off by taking some warm gray and just running it over most of the building here. I'm going to avoid kind of the areas really close to that window, so you get kind of some almost like shadows there. But other than that, I am going to run it over the entirety of the building here. And this is just going to be a quick and dirty paint job. If you have an airbrush, or if you want to blend your colors, you can do a much better job than I do. But I'm all about getting things on the gaming board quickly. So just a quick and easy paint job using about 3 colors in a wash, and you will be done. So I am done with my second layer, and now I'm going to use my kind of highlight color, which is going to be a buff titanium, which I'm going to kind of place in the middle of my wall sections to emphasize kind of the contrasting colors of the dark areas around the windows, and slowly getting lighter as you reach out to the middle of the wall. And then just so that I can hit those kind of textured areas all along the wall, I'm going to use a Vallejo, I think it's Stonewall Gray wash, and just run it all across the terrain. I'll thin it with some glaze medium from Vallejo too, so that it's not too dark. I don't want to get rid of all the highlights that I've been doing, but it will make some nice contrast among your building. And then finally, I will go with a ivory, I believe, and I will do really subtle dry brushes across the areas that I think light will be hitting the most, especially in the center of the walls. I'll make sure to hit those. And in the end, you'll get a pretty nice product that has some definite shadows and highlights, and will look good when you're standing 2 or 3 feet away. And once it's based and roofed, it will be a pretty good looking piece, I believe. So that's all you have to do. Only will take you a few minutes and you get your paint job done. So that's the finished product as of right now. I will go ahead and I will finish the building up, put on the roof, and do all the woodwork and such, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's finished, and hopefully it will inspire you to go and protect your terrain. That's the great thing about this latex caulk. I cover all my hills in it even, so if you have styrofoam hills, if you drop them or drop something on it, it won't crush them or cause a tear in the foam. It is awesome stuff. And MDF, even though it's made out of made out of kind of a wood hardboard, it's still pretty fragile. And especially if you're using like foam core or foam board to scratch build your buildings, covering it in this latex caulk will be a good way to secure your buildings for the future. So I'll be back in a moment and show you my finished result.
And here's the finished product. You may recognize this building from my tile roof tutorial, but at least the plaster section I think turned out quite well. I even took a hobby knife here and cut out little sections from the caulk so I could paint bricks in behind it, which I think gives it a nice kind of old weathered effect, and you can do this with really any building material. So I think that using latex caulk as a way to protect and give kind of some exaggerated texture. Up close, again, it might look like, there's a little too much texture protruding from your terrain. But from 3 feet, you can really notice the highlights and the shadows that play off the painted latex caulk. So there you go. So if you want to protect your terrain, give it a little bit more exaggerated texture, try this on your own terrain. All right, until next time.